Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant, and welcome back to the September update. Now, it's no secret that Elite Dangerous dumps players in at the deep end. At least that is how it used to be. Some players will no doubt argue that was a good thing and reminisce over the difficulty of their first launch from the station, or the sheer fact that they had no clue as to where to go or what to do. And that is a fair argument. It was perhaps a huge part of Elite's charm. But also, it was a huge hurdle to a lot of players. The September update then completely changes that by overhauling how new players are introduced into the game. Starting out in the traditional situation on board a Sidewinder, new players are greeted by a voice actor, Elite's very own pilot trainer.
Remarkable, isn't it? For so long humanity gazed up at the stars in wonder. We're not distracted by one of Earth's many wars. And now we glide between them without a second thought.
Introductions are given, and the player is walked through the basics of how to play the game. And this is done through a series of exercises, from the narrator highlighting elements of the ship's HUD to explaining their function, through to guidance on how to fly the ship and get involved in combat. Now, it's clear that a lot of attention and thought has been put into this, which, from what I understand from Frontier's recent livestream, included UX studies on how people were actually using the game. And these types of studies go as far as testing what areas of the screen players are actually looking at during any given activity and measuring how they react. And this allows the developer to adapt the flow of the game according to how people are actually using it. In short, it will have allowed Frontier to refine the tutorial in very specific ways, and the results actually shine. Now, there's little things here and larger things when it comes to the tutorial. For example, the new throttle indicator includes chevrons displaying the ship's current direction of flight. It's perhaps a small thing, but it's an important reference point in space where reference points are actually lacking. Larger things include the flight training area where players travel through hoops along a flight course. And to be honest here, I'd actually be very surprised if at some point this wasn't introduced as a form of racing circuit elsewhere in the game. Now, the entire training course is on rails. It's difficult to impossible to deviate away from it, but this is done in a very reasonable way. For example, on the flight course, if you crash into something, the narrator will explain to you how to correct this.
If you feel like you aren't in full control, zero your throttle and take a moment to get your bearings.
Essentially then, the entire tutorial is context sensitive and will respond to your actions if you do something wrong. It's also aware of when you do things correctly. For example, if you stow weapons before you're asked to stow weapons when plotting a supercruise jump, the narrator will then say, "I see you have already stowed the weapons." The entire flow of the tutorial will take you out of one station through basic flight into supercruise. You will then find yourself in combat training. Once this is complete, you are guided into hyperspace and eventually arrive at another station where you are taken through the docking process. At the end of the tutorial, you'll be presented with the old starting screen, which is essentially filling out your license application. And this is the pilot's license that you just earned for completing the training. It's all well put together and will no doubt go a long way to helping retention of new players. The downside, though, for many existing players is that this doesn't exactly offer them anything new. In fact, existing players won't be able to even access this tutorial without either deleting their current save and creating a new one, or alternatively getting themselves a new game account. Well, at least that's the case for PC users. Console users, meanwhile, can create as many commanders as they like. All they need to do is create a new console profile. The other issue I think I've seen people comment on is that there's still a number of people out there who very validly feel that Elite's early difficulty was a part of what made it unique. And of course, there's a number of players who felt that the game was never really difficult at all. Those are all fair points and will greatly depend on how you approach the game. For me, I really never found any difficulty with the game, but nonetheless, I've always felt that the game is too opaque for new players. So in the end, this new tutorial is perhaps one of the best focused updates Frontier have made for quite a while. That's not to say the entire September update has been great, because there are certainly a lot of issues, many of which I spoke about in my video yesterday. But this video isn't about that, it's about the new tutorial. Ultimately then, I feel Frontier have made a very good move by improving the introduction to the game. What's more, the length of the tutorial is also relatively short, so players won't be tied into it for too long. Sure, there's going to be claims that Frontier are dumbing Elite down, but those claims are nothing new and have been around ever since the early days of beta, when Frontier changed the balance of combat by introducing shield cell banks. Whilst for most of us then, the new tutorial doesn't actually offer us anything new, it's nonetheless a well put together part of the game that was much needed. Meanwhile, those more experienced players will no doubt be looking forward towards fleet carriers and eventually the 2020 update. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.